Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Help for the Guiltless. My name, of course, is Antoine. And before we get started with the few stories I have today, I hope you have hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload weekly. Because today we have some stories from Rslash ProRevenge, including one where someone catfished their former boss just to get paid. Now this is a new subreddit for me, and I've been very interested in talking about it. You all know how malicious I can be, and I can't wait to read them. So let's go ahead and get started. This very first post is from Jeremiah Chubb, and it's titled, "Ex-boyfriend and his ex caused me to almost off myself. I caused my ex-boyfriend to lose his business." This already sounds good. Hello everyone, going to try and make this as short, sweet and to the point as possible. I had been dating someone for a few months and decided to get an apartment in their hometown. Everything was going fine until I logged into a local chat room, think AOL days, to hopefully make some new friends and find out good places to go sing karaoke, and a weird username messaged me and said, "Hello," and nothing else. A few days later, me and the boyfriend, let's call him Bob, are supposed to meet up for breakfast, and when I get there, he has a messenger bag with him. I ask what he wants to eat, and he says he's not hungry. I ask him what's wrong, and he pulls out about 20 pages of a chat log from that weird username on the website. In this chat log, there's some very graphic adult stuff that was being discussed by that username. Also in that chat log was my name commenting on it, which I never did. I asked him what this was, and of course he asked me to tell him what it was. I honestly had no idea, and I told him so. He broke up with me right there over this. As I stated before, that username had said hello to me, and that was it. This chat log was faked, and no idea why someone would do that. When I got home crying my eyes out, my phone rang and there was a strange voice on the line, saying how that now that I'm single, I should go out with them and all sorts of crap. Then the text messages started about wanting to sexually assault me and various other things. It was then that it was revealed it was the ex of my now ex, Bob. Called up Bob and told him what was going on, and asked him why he gave my number to his ex. He said I shouldn't have tried to cheat on him with his ex. Again, never happened. Up until this, I thought Bob was going to be the person I spent my life with. That obviously didn't happen. Needless to say, this resulted in a police report being filed with pictures of all the text messages and voicemails being given to the police. I almost killed myself that night over all of this. Bob's ex created this fake chat log to try and break us up, which it did, just to try to get him back, which it didn't work in the end. The revenge. My ex-boyfriend, Bob, was running a computer business, and at the time Windows required CD keys to install. He was building custom computers for people and using a key generator to make the keys to install Windows and Microsoft Office 2003. I found this out and decided to contact Microsoft and the anti-piracy groups and gave them all the information I had. I didn't hear anything more about it until just before I moved back to my home state, the hammer fell. My ex lost his computer business and was fined over $100,000 for the software piracy. He still doesn't know who turned him in, but it cost him everything he had worked for. He was forced to move back in with his parents, sell his car, and get a job waiting tables. I was told I should post this here because we didn't know if this counted as pro or nuclear revenge. Update. I was asked why Bob got the brunt of this. Well, here it is. Bob gave my contact info to his ex, and that started a campaign of harassment by his ex towards me. Police wouldn't do anything because of his uncle being on the force, so Bob giving my phone number out to people and being the instigator and telling them to hit me up, as I later found out, is why he got the brunt of it. I'd rather have went after the sleazeball ex of his, but I couldn't get info on him. I suspect the other reason that the police didn't do anything was because of it involving 3 gay guys. Maybe, if it had been a big city, maybe something would have been done back in 2005, but it being in the Midwest probably explains why the police there didn't give a rat's ass. Also, I should mention that I have done some IT work in the past, so that's why I called Microsoft and the anti-piracy groups, because I knew what Bob was doing was piracy, and it would cost him everything if they dropped the hammer on him. Which it did. Well, being back in 2005, I could understand why you'd think nothing would happen, but I don't know if I'd consider this pro-revenge. You ruined the man's life. Now, I understand they almost caused you to off yourself, as in the title, which I hope things have gotten much better since then. So I see this as, well, just desserts for Bob, and I hope he never really recovered, because doing something like that, as petty as it was, well, you kinda deserved it, Bob. And this next story comes to us from Mercury for Real. I recruited an unwitting army to annoy an asshole. You know what? Props for that. Can't get upset. Back in the early 90s, my friend, I'll call him Lou because that was his name, was selling his RX-7 via an ad in the old print Auto Trader. It came out every Thursday, so that first weekend was critical for sales. The very first guy that came to see it on Saturday said he wanted to buy it after driving it. Of course, he had to finance, so they couldn't finish the sale during the weekend. Lou was worried about losing all of the bites from the new ad, so he asked for a deposit of $500. The guy wrote a check. Lou told the rest of the callers that weekend that it was sold, and unfortunately didn't ask for the numbers in case it fell through. This story predates caller ID availability in my area by a couple of years, so those leads were gone. As you surely expect by now, the guy flakes on Monday and Lou deposits the check. Payment stopped. Big surprise. Sitting around my apartment, we schemed revenge, but all we had to go on was the check. Lucky for karma, there was a phone number printed on it. Our first idea was to write a little program to dial his number repeatedly from my modem, but that would be easily stopped and probably get us in direct trouble. Then Lou got a page from his work. This was back in the one-way pager days. You call the pager's dedicated phone number. It sounds a tone, then you punch digits for the number you want to be sent to the pager. The person with the pager receives the number you entered and, presumably, calls it. Everyone with a pager made sure that people who needed to get a hold of them had the number for their pager. You see pager numbers in print and TV ads all the time for various services. Boom! Angelic choir sings. Heavenly light goes off. Lou's pager number and my pager number had the same prefix, middle 3 digits. What if we randomly dialed numbers with that prefix and paged them all to the guy's number? So we ordered a pizza, opened some beers, and started looking through the yellow pages at locksmiths and tow truck services to find more pager prefixes. We wind up with a dozen or so. After that, it's about a half hour of coding in ye old Borland C++. I put together a program that would cycle through our list of known prefixes and add a random final 4 digits to get a random pager. It calls the pager's number, pauses, then dials this asshole's number and throws a 911 suffix on there for good measure, which is something people with pagers understood to indicate an emergency of some kind. The whole thing was just generated like a string like ATDT602XXXYYYY, asshole number 911, where XXX is the pager prefix and YYY is random. Commas make pauses, since you need to connect to the paging service before you can enter the message. Make string, send to modem, wait for, no carrier, hang up, repeat. We start eating the pizza and let it fly. I was very picky about my devices, so my modem was a US robotics courier. You could set an S register to control how long it would sound each tone when dialing. Uber nerds like myself would keep tinkering with that to get it as fast as possible while still being recognized by the phone service. It was very fast. I swear it could run through 4 pages per minute, so this guy would get 240 calls per hour. We just watched it run and laughed our asses off. We realized pretty early on we didn't really know if it was working, so we wandered down to the 7-Eleven and called from a payphone, just in case he could somehow trace it or the popo were on the case and watching. Popo, I haven't used that term in a long time. A man answered and I said, "Hello? I got a page at this number." I heard an audible sigh and then he just hung up. Gold. We ended up running it for a few hours, then let it go quiet for a few days. Then we scheduled it to start dialing in the middle of the night every few days. Plus, we'd fire it up by hand randomly whenever we had a party. We checked again from the 7-Eleven after a week and it went to an answering machine, which did the rapid tone at the end of the greeting to indicate the tape was full. We reasoned that the line was still ringing anyway, so we kept at it for another month or so. Eventually, we got the disconnected warning when we made one of our regular checkups. I'm sure he just changed the number. I like to think about that guy answering the phone after a few days of silence when we started it up. I can vividly imagine his response at the "Did someone page me to this number?" as he slams the phone down and then rings again a few seconds later. Or, of course, coming home from work and having an answering machine full of random people asking about being paged. And yeah, we annoyed several thousand people into calling this guy by the end, but each of those people was only put out for a single call. A cost, yes, but a necessary one for justice. See, unlike the first story, this seemed fitting. You didn't outright try and destroy this man's life. On the contrary, you just annoyed him for quite a while. I can almost guarantee he thought it was going to stop after a bit, and possibly had no idea why it was happening. But, good for you. You got yourself some ProRevenge. And our last story, from Pristine Accident 74. I catfished a former boss to get paid. I used to work for a married couple, Billy, male 52, and Gigi, female 44, who owned a business service/public relations agency. It lasted more or less for a year. They seemed nice and humble, but in reality they were shady and untruthful. The company began to falter because of poor management and zero intention to prioritize. Billy was your babyface next-door neighbor type. He looked about 10 years younger and had a kind smile. He was soft-spoken and had an artistic and creative flair to him. Gigi looked matronly with a Mother Earth incarnate attitude towards her children. She prided herself on being ruthless when it came to giving her family only the best. She could be really nice when she wanted to, but I found out early on that she was 100% apt at gossip and being two-faced. The company's constant changes were a red flag. They went from business services plus PR agency to IT provider to a business incubator to indie beer partners. What I'm trying to say is that they tried to dip their donut in everyone's coffee. Figuratively, of course. Some of us had no real way to escape. The lady working next to me was already 67 years old and scared that no one would hire her. I wasn't in a great place either. We were 8 employees in total. They wouldn't lay anyone off because they believed that the employee should quit. They paid us only a portion of our salaries, incomplete weekly payments. Employees would run for the hills once they found a better job. Some of us were stuck. It was horrible. Then they would pay the normal rate for a month and then do it again. They never cut down on their luxury expenses, so the wife would post her shopping sprees or arrive in a new car like it was nothing. Zero empathy. Very insensitive. The husband was obsessed with making it big time, so much that he sometimes failed to see an opportunity right in front of him. He said he was Coca-Cola's brand manager. I swear I looked it up and could never find any reference. Gigi had a display full of small local magazines, mostly about design and architecture. They were very proud to be a team member, but in reality they just helped them print 2 issues. They wanted big business only, but in the meantime looked down upon tangible potential clients. Like the young Latino couple who showed up trying to learn more about their services. They seemed lost because they wanted someone to help them set up a coffee business and had no idea how it was done. I talked to them and helped them into the waiting room. They even showed up with their baby in a stroller. That means they must have driven by and decided to come in. An impulsive client should be retained. The guy said his grandpa had a farm and he wanted to create an import/export company. Once Billy showed up, he listened for a bit, then kinda gave them a kind of abrupt dismissal. That was a dick move because that couple opened their own business with someone else and even have a Facebook page. It could have been Billy. Billy lined his office walls with posters of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. His wife, the chief enabling officer, put up signs on each room. The main employee area was the machine room. Billy's office was the chamber. The conference room was a meeting of the minds. Every time an employee disagreed with Billy during a brainstorming session, Gigi would call them aside and tell them that Billy is your boss. You need to know that he is brilliant and a genius. I want him to have that taste of success. I experienced that firsthand. I also hated brainstorming because that was never on my job description. They just wanted to pick everyone's brains. In the meantime, we had to see the Pandora jewelry, the expensive makeovers for their daughters, and the weekend at the spa updates on Facebook. Gigi's captions were usually about rewarding herself after a hard week, or because she deserved it. Oh, and I'd like to mention that they bought into the social guru phrases about emotional direction. So if an employee ever got angry, Gigi would tell you, remember the one who gets angry is the one who ends up losing. I have my own sayings. Confucius say, man who goes through turnstile sideways, going to Bangkok. For anyone who's been in this situation, you may understand how painful it can be. You cannot leave the job because you have no other job waiting for you. And pathetic as it may sound to some income is better than no income at all. This is an involuntary compromise and it's abusive. Why were we expected to pay for their luxuries via incomplete wages? My best friend's ex is into coding and programming, and he agreed to help. If it didn't work out, at least we would have something to laugh about. We created a kick-ass fake website with a matching LinkedIn and the whole 9 yards. To make a long story short, this was supposed to be an investment company and my friend would be very casual, nothing too eager. He started by liking my employer's Facebook page, then comment. Before we knew, my boss took the bait and was engaging. They exchanged emails and he was eager to share all his quote-unquote projects and ambitious shit. On the other side, the investor sent him a list of requirements, like proof of concept, employer payroll, EIN number, etc. The investor agreed to work with them if they could prove they were legit and up to date. No bank account or confidential info was asked. Within 3 weeks, I was paid the equivalent of 2.5 months of what I was owed. The investor did an about-face and never contacted him again. I left the job as soon as I could. My friend, who remained until she got paid, told me our boss seemed off and a bit down after he announced big things are coming, but it all seemed to deflate. I never disclosed what was really going on. Edit. My boss wasn't scammed into paying money to the fake website. He was catfished into getting up to date with employee salaries that he owed. Edit again. I expanded the story. Edit. Another one. For anyone who doesn't understand the story, no money was paid, asked from, or wired from my boss to the investor. We baited his greedy character and told him that if he could prove everything was in order, the investment would happen. This included the payroll. No confidential info was asked nor offered, seen, or reviewed. He paid everyone what he owed them. The payment was made to each worker as normally. No one stole money via any website. He just made the diligence. EIN numbers and what we asked for are not confidential. It took me a second to understand what was going. I'm glad you explained it, OP, because it doesn't sound like you actually did anything. It just sounds like that you were screwing with him and then suddenly you got paid. But I understand that now. The boss of the company needed everything up to date, so he had to go through all of his records, which probably took some time, and paid everybody what they were owed. So I can honestly say this was kind of a Robin Hood type thing. You robbed from the rich to give to the poor, which was the 8 employees that worked at your job. Congratulations to you and your friend. You did a great job. You didn't do it maliciously. Okay, maybe you did it a little maliciously, but you didn't do it as painfully as it probably could have been. You made them own up to what they owed you. Good on you. Well, that seems to be all of the stories I have for today, ladies and gentlemen. If you've made it this far in the video, I want to say thank you for listening. And if you like what I do here, go ahead and hit like, share this around, and subscribe. And to help me out with the algorithm, go ahead and leave a comment down below. It really does help get this channel out there. But with all that being said, this has been Help for the Guildless. My name, of course, is Antoine, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.